Thursday afternoon. Happy first day of June, and welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dorzinski and Dan Lucero joining you for the next 3 hours today. We got another Royals off day. Thanks, Rob. Thank you, Mr. Manfred. Love that. Royals are off, but we do have plenty of baseball to get to on today's show, including the return for the first time in a month of Is It Good? One of our favorite games on 580 Sports Talk. We'll talk a little Royals, the rest of Major League Baseball. That's all coming up here in just a few minutes as we get things started. Dale already chiming in the YouTube comments. Shout out to Dale, who says if the Royals win Friday, they will not have lost 3 days in a row. That is true. That'd be 3 straight non-losing days.
We have a texter from the 913 who points out the very same. Jumping in quickly with the optimism, the attitude we need on this Thursday afternoon that, hey, it's back-to-back days.
I like that.
That the Royals have not lost.
That's a big deal. They get the Rockies tomorrow.
Yeah, they do.
Are you going to the game tomorrow night?
I am not going to tomorrow night's game. I am going to Saturday and Sunday's game and hoping for a brisk one on Sunday so I can get back for game 2 of the NBA Finals.
Yeah, that's entirely fair. Maybe it's doable. I mean, the Rockies are
1:10 first pitch. I think I should be back at Topeka by 7 for tip-off.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll get that done.
Yeah.
I think the Royals can win tomorrow. I think that's certainly possible. The Rockies are better than the Royals are, but they're not
saying much.
Well, yeah,
everybody is. Yeah, bars on the floor.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. Not our beloved Oakland A's.
So we'll talk a little baseball here coming up in just a matter of moments. If you're watching on the YouTube stream today, our channel, by the way, on YouTube, Sports on 580 WIBW, that's where you can find us and watch the video. You see myself and Dan at the moment. You'll see Fulton Castor a little bit later. He's going to join us at 4 o'clock for some crosstalk. And you're going to constantly see me turning my head slightly backwards as I'm talking because the Women's College World Series is on. And in the circle for the Stanford Cardinal, Topeka's own Nyjah Kennedy. That's right. The Topeka High grad, 2-time state champion, the National College Softball Freshman of the Year. Yes, for real. The best freshman in all of college softball in the circle today for Stanford against, you could argue, the best softball team of all time. And I don't mean like the program in its history. I mean, literally, Oklahoma is 56-1.
Yeah, like they could go 0-2 in barbecue in Oklahoma City this weekend, and they would still finish by winning percentage as having the greatest season in the history of college softball. So, yeah, it's a pretty credible argument to make. They're in the middle of an incredible run, obviously the defending champs, and looking for, I think it's is it a third in a row or third in 4 years? It
might be third in a row.
They're awfully impressive. But Nyjah has kept the Sooners off the board in the first 2 innings. They just wrapped up the bottom of the second. The game is scoreless. And they made Nyjah work in the first inning. Boy, I tell you what, it took her 21 pitches to handle the first 2 batters of the game. Lots of foul balls. There was a leadoff hit. Then there was, I think, a 11 pitch at bat that ended in a strikeout. And then the leadoff hitter was erased, caught stealing, then a throwing error extended the inning, but Kennedy got another strikeout to get out of the first and just worked around another base runner in the second inning as well. So scoreless in OKC, and we know some people have some passing interest, not just in the sport, but certainly in the former Topeka High Trojans. So we'll keep you up to date.
Got to talk to Nyjah last night, actually. You heard that interview on Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton today. She's great. She always has been. Super team first player. Very easy to talk to. Great interview. We're all pulling for her, obviously, so we'll keep you updated on that game. By the way, in the last decade, your champions are Oklahoma, Florida, Oklahoma, Florida State, UCLA, COVID, Oklahoma.
Okay, so they are going for a third in a row.
So that's 5 championships in the last 9 World Series. They are absurd.
Not too shabby.
No, not too bad at all. Also coming up today, in addition to what we have already mentioned for the program this afternoon, Rick Peterson is going to stop by later on this hour on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round. We've got some either or over under also coming your way. The first one is wrong with you for the month of June after we picked AJG, our monthly winner for May yesterday. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines, an absolutely ridiculous story that makes me dislike Deion Sanders even more. And speaking of Deion, there is more smoke today about expansion for the Big 12 than there has been at any point in the last year. Talk about, well, what if the four corner schools, or what if the ACC falls apart, et cetera, et cetera. That's been talked about as a rumor for a long time. It feels like legitimate smoke that there might be some fire here with expansion for the first time all year. And we're going to talk about how much sense it makes for the two schools that have been talked about the most. One of them is Colorado, which I think we've already agreed makes a lot of sense. The other is UConn. And that, to me, is more fascinating now than it was when we talked about this a week ago. And also, I still don't think makes a whole lot of sense. So we'll get to that in the 4 o'clock hour today. We'll get to your texts and we'll get to your comments on YouTube. Our text line number, you know it by now, 785-272-9429. And you can also jump in on YouTube, the name of our channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. Just go to youtube.com, search Sports on 580. We'll be the first result. Hit subscribe, and then check us out on the live stream and hop into the comment section. All right, without further ado, it is time, with no Royals game to recap, but plenty of Royals baseball to talk about. We usher in, for the month of June, our Major League Baseball edition of Is It Good?
Is it good?
Da, da, da,
Is
da,
it
da.
good? Is it good?
I have some friends who are fairly musically talented. I might commission a backing track for Is It Good?
I would love an Is It Good theme song.
So let's start with the Royals for our Is It Good categories today. And let's start with the bullpen. That's where we're going to start, because that is something I have talked about, I know, ad nauseum, about how, hey, look, everything else sucks, but look how well they've been playing, and look how well they have been, what a good job they've been doing in terms of keeping the Royals in games or keeping run totals down, et cetera, et cetera. So overall, when you look at the body of work, when you look at who is in the bullpen, the Royals bullpen, is it good?
I am leaning yes. And the reason I'm leaning yes, I guess I'll say yes for now, because this would seem to be the part of the team that is most ripe for the plucking once the contenders start to make significant or have significant interest in making trades. Aroldis Chapman throwing 103 miles an hour again from the left side. It has essentially been the best case scenario outcome for the Royals as far as the Aroldis Chapman signing.
Yep.
He has pitched his way into being a valuable trade target. And if he remains healthy and remains pitching well, then I think somebody's going to give the Royals something shiny, maybe a couple of shiny minor league prospects for Aroldis Chapman. Scott Barlow is another guy. Jeff Passan at ESPN wrote an early trade deadline primer that suggested that the Royals have gotten some calls regarding Barlow already.
I believe it.
And he's a guy striking out 12 and a half batters per nine with some ninth inning experience, with the ability to work 1+ innings out of the bullpen, which is something that the Royals have been comfortable with him doing over time. And not everybody's built for that, but Barlow's had some success doing that. So I certainly think he will be in demand. We've talked about Carlos Hernandez with a 38-8 strikeout to walk ratio in 28 innings. He seems to be really coming into his own as a reliever, comfortable in that role, throwing really hard, striking out 12 guys per nine. Taylor Clark has been solid. Amir Garrett walks too many guys, but has kept teams off the board at the very least when he's been on the mound. And if you include Mike Myers in the bullpen mix, which 2 of his 3 outings have been, he's kind of the swingman right now, and obviously he's been terrific. This is a good group right now.
Yeah.
And the frustrating thing, there's 2 frustrating things about this bullpen: being effective, being solid, making guys miss, making guys swing and miss, getting a lot of punch outs. Number one, they haven't had near enough leads to protect. I mean, that's obviously a bummer. And number 2, they've had a lot of innings they've had to eat because Royal starters just aren't giving them enough depth. Even in good outings recently, by Zach Greinke or Brady Singer's good outings recently, they've been really short. They've been 5 and fly, and that puts a real tax on the bullpen. We've seen some of these guys hit the injured list already, Josh Taylor being the latest. So hopefully we can see some of these starters give a little depth to the Royals moving forward, so they are not as reliant on getting 12 outs a night from this bullpen. But if they are asked to do a reasonable amount of work, yeah, I will say for now, before the trade deadline tears it asunder, this is a good bullpen.
Yeah, I'm going with good as well, because again, I think the only data we have to use is what has been presented to us. And well, they've been good. You went through the numbers, you went through the production. This is a good staff right now. I mean, it really is. You just look at the names, you look at the numbers, and there's really no arguing that the guys who you rely on to make an impact for you, they are making that positive impact. Now, is there a lot of depth to it? I would actually argue yes. If you've got 4 guys who you can say, and I'll take Myers out of it because he's in such a unique role. I would take him out of being like a pure bullpen guy personally.
But even if you're just counting Chapman, Barlow, Hernandez, and Clark is feeling like, I think those guys can get me a 0 if I need a 0.
How many teams have 4 dudes you can rely on for that? There are situations where you could argue for Garrett in there too. You're right. He walks too many guys. Barlow walks a lot of guys too. That's better bullpen depth than I would argue most teams have.
Yeah, there are good teams that don't have that kind of depth.
So for now, I would say, yes, no doubt in my mind, this bullpen is good. They are playing well. Great. I think we all expect Aroldis Chapman is not going to be on this team past the month of July. Honestly, I would not be surprised if he's not on the team all that long past June 15th. That's a significant date because guys who are signed in the offseason as free agents have a built-in 2.5-month no-trade clause. You cannot trade those guys until after June 15th. Chapman signed as a free agent. If you got a call from, I don't know, who's a contender that needs a bullpen arm?
Let's not to spoil too much of the segment ahead, but like Texas.
Okay, Rangers. Bang. Rangers need a bullpen arm. They're willing to give up a AAA player who looks like a major leaguer. So you have a player in AAA who you think can play for your team. I would make that move on June 16th. I would make it at midnight June 16th. Get that deal done. Move on. Here we go. No problem with that. You could argue that every single one of the guys we have mentioned, every one of them, Clark, Garrett, Chapman, Hernandez, Barlow, you can make a credible argument all 5 of those guys could be traded this offseason. Now, will it likely happen? Probably not. Could it? I think it certainly could. There was a newsletter from The Athletic today. Their baseball newsletter is called The Wind-Up. And Ken Rosenthal wrote about how there are a lot of teams that are looking for starting pitching this year and could use starter help. There aren't all that many guys out there who are good trade deadline target starting pitchers. To me, one way to interpret that then, or to extrapolate what could happen, is more teams are going to try to add more bullpen arms. If they know they're not going to get much help with their starters, we got to continue to shore up our bullpen to make up for our lack of starting pitching. And as we have gone over many times, there is no such thing as too many good relief pitchers. No such thing. No team has ever said, nah, we're good with what we have.
3 of these guys. We're fine.
Yeah, nah, not a problem, especially with the way teams manage the postseason now. By this time, 2 months from now, on this date, the first of the month of August, we might totally flip because the best guy left in the bullpen, like, they might re-sign Jake Newberry at that point. Like, that might be your best bullpen arm at that point. But for now, it's good. I would not be surprised if it's a total overhaul by the trade deadline, though. Would not be shocked one bit. Position players for the Royals. One in particular. Nick Pratto. Is Nick Pratto good?
Nick Pratto obviously came out of the gate red hot, has cooled a bit, but still posting a .295 batting average, a .398 on base percentage, and a .429 slugging percentage in his 31 games, 123 plate appearances. What I'm concerned about right now with Pratto, we have talked a little bit about his batting average on balls in play having been absurd to start the year. It was up over 500 for a while. It's starting to plummet back down to earth, but it's still a preposterous 460 batting average on balls in play. The strikeout rate, he's striking out 32.5% of his at-bats. There's not a long list of guys in the league who do that and are good offensive players at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That does concern me. And the one thing that can mitigate a high strikeout rate is if you also walk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Prado, for his part, walking 12% of the time is comfortably above major league average in that regard. So I think he knows the strike zone, just maybe has a little bit too much swing and miss right now. But the other thing you can do is when you hit the ball, hit it over the fence. Like, think about Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo strikes out more than Prado. Joey Gallo strikes out like 35, 36% of the time. Joey Gallo also walks more than Prado. He walks about 16, 70% of the time, and he hits a lot more home runs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how he, without a great batting average on balls in play, that's how he can be a 220 hitter and still be a positive offensive contributor, because he'll walk and he'll hit the ball a long way. 3 true outcome hitters, we call them. The true outcomes. The outcomes that are not influenced by the defense or by bum luck. Hitting it over the fence, swinging and missing, or drawing a walk. The 3 true outcomes. If you're really, really good at drawing walks and hitting the ball over the fence, then you can live with the strikeout rate up over 30%. Prado hasn't really shown the power this year, which is interesting because he's hitting the ball harder, but he's not hitting it in the air as often. And as a result, he's only got the 2 home runs to go with the 8 doubles. Whereas last year he had 7 home runs and 9 doubles in about 60 more plate appearances. So I am withholding judgment on Nick Prado until I see if the power comes along. I need to see more power from Prado before I feel comfortable saying, yes, Nick Prado is the everyday first baseman. I like the early returns are good. He hits the ball hard. He hits line drives. The high batting average on balls in play is a fluke, but it's also a product of how he hits the ball. But either the strikeouts have to come down or the power's got to go up before I'm all in on Nick Prado.
I think that's entirely fair. I would rather, if you're giving me a pick, you get to build your personal Nick Prado with one of these 2 traits. What would you rather have? I would take the power over the strikeouts.
Yeah.
I would happily live with the strikeouts if you're driving dudes in, if you're hitting for power, if you're getting extra bases. I will live with the strikeouts. You gotta see that, though. For what it's worth, we've talked, as you mentioned, about the BABIP, the batting average on balls in play, a lot. Nick Prado does not have enough plate appearances to qualify for MLB leaderboards right now. I don't know what the exact number is. All the guys in the top 30 have at least 174 appearances, though. The highest qualified BABIP in Major League Baseball this year, Riley Green of the Tigers, 410. There are only 2 qualified players in all of baseball who are at 400 or better. And then also Luis Ariz, who has all he does is hit for average.
Yeah.
The number 1 hit for average player in all of baseball, he's not even at 400. Nick Prado is still at 460. Yeah. And that's almost 100 points down from where it peaked. It's just not sustainable. That's not something that can last for an entire season.
So we got to see him get some more hits over the fence, particularly if he's going to be a first baseman. Like, you need that consistent power presence from your first baseman.
And again, you can live with that number going back down. I mean, you'll have to. You can live with that number going back down if, he's hitting the ball less often, but he's hitting more doubles. He's hitting home runs. You can live with that, but I don't think we've seen enough of that to be convinced, this is, he's had good moments. He's had a good run, but I don't know if he is good in that same kind of way right now. Like you would say, for example, a Vinny Pasquantino has been good over the course of the season. Elsewhere around Major League Baseball, as we get through our Royals topics, 2 teams we wanted to get to. Number 1, you already mentioned them, the Texas Rangers. Are they good? Their offense is darn good.
They are 35-20 and have scored 346 runs in 55 games. The reason they have done this, they are hitting over 330 with runners in scoring position. They are taking advantage of every scoring opportunity.
It's crazy.
Ruthlessly taking advantage. You'd expect that number to go down, but still, they have legitimately excellent offensive players in Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, and Nathaniel Lowe is a good hitter. They've got a guy who might win the American League Rookie of the Year in Josh Young. Leody Taveras was a top prospect who appears to be in the midst of a breaking out season. Same with Jonah Heim, their catcher. Nate Eovaldi has rolled back the years and has been the ace of their pitching staff. They are still without Jacob deGrom, who's been hurt a while. He's missed about a month. You don't know how much you're going to get from Jacob deGrom, frankly, but they've gotten good work from some of their other free agent signings of either this year or the year before, guys like John Gray and Andrew Heaney. Don't love their bullpen. I think the batting average on balls and play numbers are going to come back down to earth, but they are leading their division by 3 games. Houston's dealing with a shortage of starting pitching. They've dealt with a lot of serious injuries to starting pitchers. The Angels are the Angels, perpetually unserious. And the Mariners feel like a team that kind of punched above their heads last year and are kind of settling into a bit of a 500-ish existence that feels about right for them. I see no reason why Texas isn't a playoff team. So I will say, yes, Texas is good.
I think they're good too. And again, you want to talk about outlier numbers. The Rockies are the second best team in the majors in terms of batting average with runners in scoring position. 294. That's really good. Really, really good. They are still 39 points behind where the Rangers are right now, which again seems somewhat unsustainable. By the way, you know who's last in that category?
San Diego Padres.
They're below 200 batting with runners in scoring position. The Royals are 26th. But I think the Rangers are good. I don't necessarily trust the pitching, and I don't necessarily trust that we're going to get a full season of Nate Eovaldi pitching this well. But their offense is good enough that, yeah, I'm leaning into they're going to be darn good this year. And I think that offense is good enough that for the duration of the season, they're going to be able to, you know, they can keep it up enough that they are going to be productive throughout the duration of this season. Now, are they going to be that good and, you know, that dominant offensively all year? I don't know. Their Pythagorean win-loss is actually better than their actual win-loss, and they're 35-20.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the good there. Another one. We'll get through a couple of these real quick. One more team, the Arizona Diamondbacks from the NL West.
33-23 going into today. That was tied for the second best record in the National League. It's kind of been a slow start over in the NL. The AL's hogging all the wins. They're tied with Atlanta for the second best record in the National League behind the Dodgers. Their Pythag win-loss is actually 3 wins worse. They've got some really exciting young players. Corbin Carroll right now, the front runner for National League Rookie of the Year. Geraldo Perdomo's breaking out at age 23. But I look at their roster. I see a lot of guys overperforming. I see a pitching staff that's really reliant on young arms right now, guys who are just breaking in, like Ryan Nelson, Tommy Henry, Brandon Pfaadt. I think this is a team that's a little bit over their heads. Could they still make the playoffs? I mean, God, somebody's got to in the National League, and they've already banked these wins, but I feel like they're punching a bit above their weight right now. I will say that the Diamondbacks, despite the fact that they're about to 4-game sweep the Rockies, they are not good.
They have a player named Pavin on their team. Pavin. Like, spelled like Gavin, but with a P.
It's Pavin Smith. Do you know why he's named that? His dad was an agent for golfers, and one of his clients was former U.S. Open champion Corey Pavin.
How about that?
The little general.
It's still a dumb name. So I'm out on the Diamondbacks. Real quick here, before we get to a break, we'll go rapid fire with these last couple. A couple other players. Luis Arise, we just mentioned him. All he does is hit singles.
Yeah, he's got like a batting line straight out of like the 1920s, a 381 batting average and a 466 slugging percentage. Like young Ty Cobb. It's preposterous what I'm seeing. I think he's good. Like, he's done this. He hasn't maybe hit 380, but he is a legitimate 300 hitter, legitimate batting title threat. And it'd be fun to see him linger in the 380s all summer and maybe make a run at 400. I'm rooting for that. That would be a cool baseball thing.
Can you like hit a home run? That's what I want to see. Hit for some power.
One. He's got one.
Yeah, hit like a man. Hit for some power. From my favorite team, Marcus Stroman, the major league leader in wins above replacement for pitchers.
I feel like he's become one of the most underrated players in baseball.
He went through what a lot of players in a lot of sports have gone through. You get talked about a lot and you're very loud, for lack of a better term.
He's very online.
And then people overrate you because they're like, you're fine, but people talk about you too much. To then the point where, oh man, maybe they're underrated. It's Tony Romo disease. Tony Romo got talked about like crazy. People say, he throws too many picks. He's not actually that good. And then people underrated. No, he's actually very good. That's Marcus Stroman.
If he's your ace, you're probably not a very good team like the Cubs.
Yeah, we're not very good.
24-31. Like, if he's your best pitcher, but he, I think, is going to be a guy that lots of contenders would be happy to run out there in game 2 or game 3 of a playoff series.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
I think he's solid. And I think that because he's going to opt out of his contract, I would imagine, the year he's having. I think he's going to be a very enticing trade target. The Cubs are going to clean up when they move him.
Yeah, he says he wants an extension. We'll see about that. Also, real quick, we're now 2 months in. The pitch clock, is it good?
Oh, but I thought it was going to be deciding games. It was going to be deciding games in the 9th inning, and we were all going to be so upset. Yeah, the pitch clock's good. Nobody's complaining about it hardly at all anymore. It's good, undeniably good. It's made baseball better.
I went to a game with the pitch clock that still took over 3 hours last weekend, so I truly didn't even notice it. So yeah, I'll say it's good. Why not? That'll take us to a timeout, our first of the day. Rick Peterson is going to join us a little bit later on this hour, but first, after this commercial, we'll play a little either or over under right here on 580 Sports Talk.
Attention.
A quick update on the Women's College World Series and Topeka's own Nyjah Kennedy. We are in the top of the fourth. Stanford is batting. They're the away team because Oklahoma is obviously the number one seed. No score as of yet. Stanford threatening. They had first and second, one out. Now there are two outs. Trying to get a run across and get Nyjah Kennedy some run support. She has been awesome, though, against the best team in the country. Absolutely awesome. We'll keep tabs on that game throughout the day. Real quick, a round of either or over under before we get to Rick Peterson. We've been talking some college football this week. We'll talk a little bit more football business anyway, later in the show. Over under a combined 5.5 first team all Big 12 players from KU and K-State.
What's the number again? 5.5?
5.5.
Over under 5.5 preseason?
No, end of year. We'll go end of year.
Postseason, 5.5.
I know that's a long way away.
First team.
First team.
Man, a 14-team league, I'm going to have to go under.
Mhm.
I think that is probably the wiser bet here. I think that, I mean, Daniels and Howard are my two favorite quarterbacks in the conference. I think one of them is going to be first team, and certainly Devin Neal's going to have a look at it.
Mhm.
BB is going to probably be a first team player if he performs to his established level of excellence. But it's hard to say that there's anybody else who's like nailed on. Like that is definitely a first.
Yeah.
There's some guys who have that like as their ceiling. Like I think Khalid Duke, if he could stay healthy, or Daniel Green, if he plays all 12 games, I think those guys are first team caliber defenders for Kansas State. But yeah, I think the safe play there is probably under.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think from K-State, I think you can name a ton of dudes who have that potential. Will Howard is in that group. I think Trayshawn Ward, the running back transfer from Florida State, a lot of K-Staters like him. Sounds like the program is crazy high on him. I think they have a chance. I think Cooper Beebe is nailed on. I think he will certainly be a first-team all-league pick. Defensively, Kobe Savage is going to be on there. Deuce Green, throw in Khalid Duke. I mean, tons of options there. KU, Jalen Daniels has that opportunity. Absolutely. I think Devin Neal has that opportunity. Don't know about the receivers. I like KU's receiver room. I don't know that anyone is quite that high on the list. I think a couple of the offensive line, like Mike Nowitzki, I think Nowitzki, excuse me, has a chance at being first team all league. Kobe Bryant does, but 14 teams, it's hard to get 6 of 22 from just 2 schools in a 14-team league.
Either or for me today. The Women's College World Series underway, of course, takes place in Oklahoma City. In a couple of weeks, it'll be the Men's College World Series, which, of course, has been held in Omaha for many, many years. I'm putting those Midwestern cities up against each other, either or. Where'd you rather spend a week, Oklahoma City or Omaha?
I actually really like both. I've really enjoyed limited time in both cities. I would lean Omaha. Although then again, man, I had some really good steak or really good food in general when I was in Oklahoma City. I will lean Omaha, but man, that's close. That's really close. I would enjoy going to either of these two events for the cities they're in.
I have been to a College World Series in Omaha. I have spent more time in Omaha collectively than I have in Oklahoma City. So I am probably a little biased, but I think Omaha's low-key a neat city.
It is.
I think it's pretty easy to get around. I think that the downtown area is very nice. Good event city. In a way of describing it. It's a really good big event. So they do big events really, really well. So like the College World Series. So plus they have Zestos, and I don't think Oklahoma City's got Zesto.
Coneflower Creamery. That place is awesome. What's the like shopping downtown district? It's not just downtown.
There's Bricktown in Oklahoma City, and then
in Omaha. Is it Old Town?
I think that's right.
It might be Old Town. Because Bricktown's cool. I liked Bricktown in Oklahoma City, but yeah, I'll give a slight lean to Omaha, but I can be swayed. I definitely could be swayed. Let's get to a commercial break. Rick Peterson will join us next right here on 580 Sports Talk. Every Thursday at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour, Rick Peterson from TopSports.News joins us here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. You can find all of Pistol's phenomenal work over at TopSports.News, and you can find him on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. Pistol, by any chance, are you watching the Stanford Cardinal and the Women's College World Series right now?
Well, right now I'm on back of my deck and talking to you, but I have been paying attention.
Nyjah Kennedy, for those just tuning in, pitching for Stanford, the Topeka native, the Topeka High product, former state champion, National Softball Freshman of the Year, every award you can think of, she's pretty much won so far. Pistol, she looks phenomenal today.
Yep, she's looked phenomenal pretty much all spring. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. You would think that as the games get bigger, they get tougher, and they do, but she's still, like as you say, looking phenomenal.
Just picked up her 6th strikeout. We're in the top or bottom of the 4th inning against the best team in the country, best team in the world in Oklahoma, and has not allowed a run as of yet. We'll keep tabs on that throughout the day. But Pistol, we've got some housekeeping notes from state tournament and state event weekend from all over the state. Let's start with where you were this past weekend down in Wichita at Cessna Stadium. What were some of the highlights for you from your trip down there for state track?
Well, yeah, and first of all, I'd like to say, I also was keeping track of 5A baseball, 5A softball, and, of course, 6A soccer. And Steeman baseball dropped a tough one. They just couldn't get on track against Eisenhower star pitcher. But Shawnee Heights, which is a very, very young team, they gave a very good performance, getting third in 5A softball. A rural soccer making their 9th straight appearance, gets third in 6A soccer. We tend to expect a lot out of team programs like rural soccer, but they deliver almost every year. And then track had 8 city champions, including 4 by Hayden, 2 individual champs and 2 relays, and set a meet record in the 4x400 meter boys relay. So very good. Trey Richardson was phenomenal. 2 golds, a silver, and a 4th in the 200 after he hurt himself a little bit in the long jump. Jackson Escobel of Shawnee Heights was 1st in the 3200, and dang near won the 1600 photo finish in that event, and got 2nd in that event. So Finn Dunshee was the 100-meter champion in 4A, so he's not just a football player. And Jake Moeller won the 300 hurdles. It was a very good, no girls champions, but multiple runners-up and very good performances.
A quick note about Hayden, and Finn Dunshee, you want to throw rugby and then football and then track in there, and he's darn good at all of them. Well, you and I spoke, Pistol, back in the fall about how Hayden's got so many young, talented athletes and are setting themselves up as just an athletic program for a lot of years of success here in the near future. Feel like that came to fruition throughout the duration of this athletic year.
Yeah, and I think, you said it. I mean, I think they're just getting started. I mean, Finn will be a senior. Jensen Strickle will just be a junior. And they had some other young talent. You don't miss losing a guy like Joe Otting, but they're going to be very good in a lot of sports.
We're talking with Rick Peterson of TopSports.News on the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. Rick joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline at this time on Thursdays here on 580 Sports Talk to break down the latest prep sports happenings. Pistol, I want to ask you about the controversy from state track over the weekend. A young woman from Olathe Northwest who was a part of the softball and track teams and standout thrower of the discus, and I think either the shot or the javelin. It was the shot. And she missed one of the events that she qualified for to play with her softball team then decided after softball lost in that 12-inning marathon to Washburn Rural in the state semifinals there in 6A to go and compete in her other throwing event, but was not allowed to do so. It sounded like it was just a clerical error on the part of her coaches. They did not fill out the proper paperwork and listed her in a way that made her ineligible to compete in all of her events instead of just withdrawing her from the one event. And obviously your heart goes out to the athlete, and the disappointment must be immeasurable. But there has been a renewed call for perhaps a separation of these state events at the end of the year. I know that there are a lot of four-sport athletes, especially when you get into maybe some smaller towns and kids who do participate, and it happens everywhere, but you have athletes who participate in baseball or softball and also do track as well. Do you think that there is a way it could make sense to move state track or split state track from the state baseball and softball weekends? Or is this just a juggling act that athletes are going to have to continue to make and fill out the right paperwork in the future?
Well, I feel very bad that it happened. Kendall Yarnell's the young lady in question, and anybody that's followed sports in Topeka over the years knows the Yarnell name. Her dad is Luke Yarnell, who was an exceptional multi-sport athlete at Washburn Rural, went on to play Division I football, played in the USFL, even a bit part in the Longest Yard movie. Very well known in this town. And I had a long conversation with Luke on Saturday at state. I think what my thinking is, and exactly what you said, Dan, it's too late to do anything about this. It's unfortunate. I do not want to rip Keisha. It was in the books the way it was carried out. So I certainly don't want to rip Keisha. All I would say is, let's make some changes so this doesn't happen to another athlete, so this doesn't happen again in the future. And my thinking on that is, again, kind of what you said. For years, in fact, I wrote a column way back when. Let's make it a state championship week. We've shown we can change things a little bit. You know, softball and baseball used to be on Friday, Saturday. We moved them to Thursday and Friday. Let's make it a state championship week. Let's maybe move them up, because anybody that knows me knows I'm big proponent of multi-sport athletes. So let's make it easier for these people to be multi-sport athletes without making these heart-wrenching decisions and having a case like happened last weekend. Just move up maybe baseball and softball a day more. Now, with spring weather in Kansas, you're not going to completely eliminate, the problems, because you can be pushed back 2 days and things like that. But let's just see if we can spread it out a little more and make it so it's easier for these exceptional athletes that are capable of playing 2 and 3 sports to be able to do so.
Pistol, do you think there's widespread support for something like that?
I don't know why there wouldn't be. I don't know. Like I said, they proved that we can move things around a little bit. I think, I don't know why there wouldn't be. I mean, I really haven't, this just came up again last week, so I really haven't had time to research it. But I don't know what the pratfalls to it would be. I just know right off the top of my head what the benefits would be. And if somebody can tell me some real big pratfalls, maybe I reconsider. But I would like to see us avoid situations like that in the future. I know the McLeod girl ran the hurdles at Friday and then had to hurry up and get in the car and race to be able to play to be able to play softball. Things like that. So I think it's not just one or two athletes; it's several athletes, and I would like to at least examine this and see what we could do.
We're chatting with Rick Peterson, covers prep sports around Topeka and Shawnee County for TopSports.news. That's where you can go to find all of his great work. You can also follow Pistol on Twitter, where his handle is at Peterson_Rick. This is the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Pistol, one other state champion that I had to make sure we asked about from the county. How about the Rossville girls coming away with a softball state championship? That's a pretty darn impressive run, really, for both the county teams from Silver Lake and Rossville in softball this year, and a really strong finish to the year for the Dogs.
Yeah, and, again, something else that maybe at some point we can see about changing how they do those. It's kind of a shame that both Silver Lake and Rossville couldn't make it to state softball, because I know they were two of the best teams in that class. But Rossville, which had lost twice to Silver Lake, beat them to get to go to state, and then took care of business. And a really, really impressive performance, particularly in the 2-0 shutout win over Santa Fe Trail in the final.
And I'll ask you the same question I asked you just a moment ago about the track scheduling and all of that, and the other events state weekend. Do you think there's support to change up the way that we get teams to the state tournament, or the way we do sub-states and regionals and all that? Do you think there's any or a lot of support to make adjustments so we truly get the best teams to state?
Well, we've done a better job, and when I say we, I mean the Activity Association and the people that make those decisions in football and basketball. We've done some things that made it more a true tournament, and got your true best teams there, by going to seeding in basketball and football in the East and the West. We haven't done it in the smallest classes. So maybe we look like, to answer your question, Brendan, I think anybody that's been affected by it is sure in favor of a different system. If you haven't been affected by it, maybe not so much. But if you've been affected by it, and there's been, hey, it was the same way kind of in 3A basketball. Both Rossville and Silver Lake had really good teams. So I'm guessing that those people would probably be in favor of looking at a different system. But no system is going to be perfect. Just like we were talking about, spreading out the state tournaments. No situation is going to be completely perfect. But I really do think Keisha has done a good job of making some changes that have helped, and I just hope we continue to keep doing that.
All right, Pistol, with spring sports in the books, what's next for you?
Well, we're working on our banquet, which will be June 28th, and getting all of our nominations in for the Shawnee County Senior Athletes of the Year. And then we will have our summer project. 2 years ago, in our first year, we picked the top athletes of all time in Shawnee County. Last year, we picked the top coaches of all time in Shawnee County high school sports. This year, it's going to be teams. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think that's really going to be a fun project for the summer for us.
Well, we can't wait for that to get underway. We'll talk about it plenty while you're working on it, Pistol. Rick Peterson covers all things prep sports for TopSports.news. Check out his work there, and check him out on Twitter as well, at Peterson_Rick. We appreciate the time as always, Pistol. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, look forward to it.
That is Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. We've got to get to a quick break. We'll talk to Fulton Caster next hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk getting underway. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas. Shout out, as always, to Rick Peterson from TopSports.news for joining us for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round. If you missed that or anything else from the first hour, head to our website, 580wibw.com, go to the podcasts tab, and then click on 580 Sports Talk. That's where you'll find the podcast version of the show. You can also check us out on YouTube, watch live, go back and rewind the show to any point. Our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. We've got some crosstalk coming up here in just a few minutes to lead off this 4 o'clock hour. We've also got our first What Is Wrong With You for the month of June, sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. And we've got the latest on the UConn and Colorado to the Big 12 rumors. Big 12 meeting is going on at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. Like this is some sort of nuclear arms pact being debated. They're at the Greenbrier talking about this. Does it make sense for UConn to come to the Big 12? There's a lot of smoke around that particular rumor, and we will get to that coming up later on this hour. We'll get to your texts, 785-272-9429. That is our text line number. And, of course, the YouTube comment section is open as well. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of our channel. Before we bring in Fulton Caster for crosstalk, it is 0-0 between Stanford and Oklahoma. Bottom of the fifth inning. Topeka's own Nyjah Kennedy not on the hill, in the circle for Stanford. And with one on and one out, just got an OU player to pop out. And there are now 2 outs. A freshman is holding maybe the best single-season softball team of all time to no runs through 4 2/3 innings at the College World Series.
She's built for this.
Incredible.
She's been built for this.
I have to turn the screen away because I can't imagine I can show the ESPN feed on our stream.
Yeah, we might get in some trouble for that.
I imagine we will. So with that, we bring in Fulton Caster, and I have to turn the screen ever so slightly more to make sure it is not on. All right, that is enough.
That's good.
That should be sufficient.
We
I'll let you know if anything happens. I got a great angle on it now.
Perfect.
It's perfect for Dan right now.
Fulton Caster, co-host of Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton, noon to 3 every day here on 580 Sports Talk. Just one more day for you for a while. You got the week off next week.
Yeah. Tomorrow's my final show for a little bit. I will be off all 5 days next week. So Jake Laban will have you on Mic'd Up by himself for the next 5 days. I will be off to enjoy some nice relaxation.
Would you like to ask Fulton what you asked him off the air earlier today about this particular trip?
I swear.
I
swear.
I just want to know if Fulton, if you're going to catch a fish on this trip, which would be one more
I'm going to hurt somebody.
than you caught on last year's.
I'm going to hurt somebody.
Fish
I
excursion.
wouldn't be very clear. I'm defending
One
myself.
of the funniest things to ever happen to this radio station.
I want to put
finding out Fulton went on a fishing trip and didn't catch
There's
any
two
fish.
things. There's 2 things I want to get to point here. One, this bit's lasted a year. This has been a year-long bit at this point. I just want to point that out.
It's been really funny for a whole year, too.
It really has. Even for me, this is pretty funny. Number 2, as I want to continue to clarify, last year I learned as I went through the excursion that calling last year as a fishing trip was incorrect because I did not get to fish near the level that I wanted to. And by that, I mean, I think we literally in a 7 to 8 day period went on the lake 3 times. Not great odds there. And I'll admit it was a bad year.
I mean, 0 for 3
great
is
team.
still 0%.
It's still bad. No, you're correct. You're not wrong, sir. But saying I went over on a fishing trip in incorrect state. I learned that calling it that was wrong. Hence why I'm not calling this year a fishing trip. This is just vacation. A vacation where fishing might occur. And if it does,
Quite a spin
plan
zone.
to be successful. You have to. You have to get ahead of the
I
haters.
might go fishing, and I might catch a fish or not. Who's to say?
It's not a fishing trip. I'm going on vacation. It's not a fishing trip, though.
Okay.
Okay, I have to find this tweet. This reminds me of something I saw yesterday. This was tweeted by...
I have to spin the zone this at this point. I have to.
Oh, man, I have to go find this. This was tweeted out by a Patriots fan.
Oh, boy.
And where did this
If I'm
go?
being compared to Patriots fans, I feel really bad.
No, it was extremely funny. And now I need to go and find what he said. Yes, okay. This Patriots fan tweeted, I'm proposing that we do a week this season where if the Patriots lose, we collectively pretend they won. When the other fan base shows up to argue, we post an old box score, Brady era highlights, Matt Slater breaking them down. Make them defeat us in the marketplace of ideas. That is what Fulton is doing.
Yes.
Fulton is trying to beat the haters in the marketplace of ideas.
He's going to post all kinds of pictures of him with holding a fish, and they're going to be a visibly younger, clean-shaven Fulton. Dude, you're 13 in that picture. No, I'm not.
Funny enough, one, I actually have a photo that I could try and use as photographic evidence to try and pretend if I wanted to. But no, I want to make clear, I'm not trying to be revisionist history here. Last year, I was skunked, went over. It sucked. It was brutal, very unfun. What I'm continuing to try and fight is this idea that I'm bad overall. I've had successful years.
I'm a good fisherman.
This is a what have you done for me lately league called life. Fulton.
Yes, I understand. I'm just fighting the false narrative that I'm fully bad and that I don't know how to do it. That's the narrative I'm fighting. Which I understand. It's an uphill battle. I get it. I pay attention, and I want to make this very clear. When I catch my first one of next week, these YouTube comments on both your shows, both 580 Sports Talk and Mic'd Up, are going to be inundated with the proof. The text line, inundated. The internet out there. I will get all of you to shut it.
There's a quote, I believe it's from Leonard Bernstein, about how it's the censorship that gives the word its power and the word its vulgarity.
Yeah.
If Fulton was just tough time on the lake last year, this never would have been a thing.
No. Yeah.
But Fulton comes back from last year's trip.
Yes.
And it's just incensed.
I had to fight the doubter.
It's a little bit of the Streisand effect, right?
Right. A little bit. If I let this water off the duck's back a little bit more, the joke would probably die out.
Mark's got your back in the YouTube comments. Fulton says, Brendan and Dan, you guys probably won't even try fishing.
No, Mark's right. I will not fish.
Mark is correct.
Thank you. Mark's got my back. Yeah. How about you? What'd you guys do last year?
Fulton and Mark fight the haters.
Caught as many fish as you, Fulton.
Ow! Got him!
That's what I did.
Dan, that was good.
Oh, no.
Dan, that was really
That's
good.
what I did last summer.
Really
without
good.
Ever dipping a reel or whatever you call it.
Oh, boy. Dan, that
dipping
was really
a
good.
reel.
Wetting your reel or however you call it.
Man.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, last year was a bad year. I'm hoping this year's better.
By the way, Fulton, speaking of the Women's College World Series a moment ago, as our resident softball expert,
I guess, I pretty much am.
Yeah, I mean, former voice of KU softball.
2 years doing it.
How would you break down Nyjah Kennedy's performance today?
It might be the single greatest pitching performance I've ever watched.
She's been incredible.
She's been great. And I want, because Jake asked me about this during Mic'd Up, because there are people, seeing the 74 and the 75 on the radar gun. And Jake was just like, is that fast? He was like, is that fast? For anyone at this point who does not know, as Oklahoma scores their first
single
run.
and an error is going to cost her 2 runs here with 2 out. She had no 2 count. Good piece of hitting to left, and then the left fielder kicked it, and that allowed both runners to score.
That's what Oklahoma
I think those
does,
are both going to be unearned on Kennedy's record, but 2-0 to the number 1 team in the country, bottom of the 5th.
And 74-75, Nyjah Kennedy is basically throwing 103 up at the plate right now. Is the comparison's sake. Is for the reaction time and the comparison's sake. That's what she's doing. Just it's the command, it's the movement, and her doing this as a freshman against the greatest individual softball team in a season ever is impressive. Like the fact that Oklahoma just now, did you? And I'm sure you guys noticed this if you pay attention to the broadcast. Do you know how often Oklahoma has been held scoreless through their first 4 innings this year?
I would say it has not happened very often.
5 times.
That's funny.
This is their 58th game. This was the 5th time. You don't do what Nyjah Kennedy's doing. You don't do to Oklahoma.
That's absurd.
And
that's how great it is.
It was Oklahoma's best hitter too. It was their star leadoff center fielder, Jada Coleman, who finally did beat her with that.
Jada Coleman, good.
Yeah, with the base hit to left. That I again, I don't know. I'm not the official scorer here, but I would say that both runs should be unearned.
I would agree
that ball
with that.
got out to left in a hurry, and I think they had a chance to. I don't know. I would say both runs. At least one of them is unearned.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Wanted to get to this later on in the hour, and we will, talking a little bit about the rumors of UConn and Colorado being courted by the Big 12, among others. I'll ask you your take on this, Fulton. We'll start with Colorado. Dan and I are pretty much in the camp that makes a lot of sense. And in retrospect, maybe they should have never left in the first place.
Oh, they shouldn't have.
I get why they left. And I get it's a laid back school and it's a cultural fit. No, Colorado belongs with Kansas and Kansas State and Iowa State and Oklahoma State. That's where they belong. And Nebraska too, but Nebraska is also obviously out of the conference now. Like, that should be a no-brainer at this point. And if Colorado is willing to come back, I would say, yes, make that happen. I don't get UConn. I don't. I know it's a basketball brand. I know that's meaningful. I don't know necessarily why, though, the Big 12 would want to add everything else that comes with UConn: travel, smaller alumni base, way away from everybody, no natural rivals, and a football program that, while improved last year, went 6-7 as an independent. And why UConn would want to leave the perfect situation. It just doesn't click for me.
Yeah, so real briefly on Colorado, you guys have hit the nail on the head so much. They're a perfect fit, and I would welcome Colorado back with open arms. It works, it fits. You can have all your questions. People can have all the questions they want about, commitment to athletics and things like that. Colorado fits with being what the Big 12 is and everything culturally. So I welcome Colorado back with open arms. And then also because I could watch KU dunk on Deion Sanders. Would be hilarious. When it comes to UConn, I don't get it. And I'm as much as anyone who believes the Big 12 should build its branding on being the greatest basketball conference, hands down. That our football's going to be entertaining, but we got the best basketball in the country and it ain't close. And UConn would help a little bit, some, and I know I just said that about the reigning national champions, but as we've talked about a lot, I mean, UConn wins a national title and they've won the most since the 90s, since the millennium turned. But at the same time, they also go into their shell so often and become completely uncompetitive. So I don't know if that brand fits best. And then UConn football and just other UConn athletics. And I'm not trying to be mean to UConn, but it doesn't make sense to me. Everything about it doesn't make sense.
I'll expand on this a little bit later, but I don't think the Big 12 has any interest in UConn football.
So you think it's basketball only?
I think this and the conversations around Gonzaga are essentially the same in the sense that our brand is we're going to be the best basketball league in the country. Let's go get Gonzaga. You don't have a football program at all to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And UConn has gone independent with their football programs, probably where they ought to stay.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
I think that suits them best. They tried to get the AAC and that was a bad decision for their football program. I think that they would like to attract those two basketball programs to build the basketball brand. I think they want to build the best basketball league in the country, and they're not real concerned with the football prowess of who they might have to add to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out eventually that UConn's not the only Big East member they're talking to about joining their league and not worrying about the football component of it. And what you could get at the end of it is in 6 years, Brett Yormark has this basketball product that he says, okay, we're going to split this and we're going to sell our basketball media rights separate from our football and our Olympic sport media rights. And this is going to be something that's extremely valuable because college basketball is, as a product, something that, I mean, obviously does pretty good TV numbers by the time you get to March. So why not give March caliber games from November to February? Why not be the league for that if you can be?
If you were going to make and I know this isn't exactly what you were saying, but I have been a proponent for years now, even pre Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12, of football conferences, basketball conferences, other sports conferences, because baseball, softball on down, it makes more sense to schedule and have rivalry games with teams that are local to you. Like, there's realistically, from, I don't know if it's fair to say baseball and softball are completely non-revenue sports, but you know what I mean when I say the non-rev or the Olympic sports. Like, those teams should be it should be KU and K-State and Iowa State, Oklahoma State, sure, and Wichita State and Creighton and Missouri State. Like, that should be a league. Basketball, there's obviously a lot of money involved, especially when you talk about postseason stuff. Football is its own beast at this point. I would be entirely fine with the Big 12 football league is different than the Big 12 basketball league. And you have also put the seed in my head now. Creighton with those other Big 12 schools would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Oh,
is
yeah,
that a
it would.
school you had in mind?
Yes.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah. No,
Also,
I'd
no
agree.
football to deal with. Don't even have to worry
That's
about
true.
that. No, that would be sick. But like, if you're trying to just build a basketball conference, I get it. If you're trying to do anything beyond that, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Although I do want to ask you this. I asked this to Shahan Jayaraja yesterday from CBS Sports when he joined us. Do you think there will be any realignment this summer? Like, do you think there is going to be at the high major level, and I'll use high major instead of Power 5 because it might include basketball-specific teams.
Yeah.
Do you think we get some sort of major realignment change this summer around the same time we got USC, UCLA last year, OU and Texas the year before that?
Yeah, I really want to say yes, because there's so much smoke around these varying moves.
That makes you believe there's some sort of fire.
I feel like there's something here. So I'm going to say yes. I don't know what it will be, and I'm just not confident willing to stake it to anything.
Mhm.
But there's so much smoke around so many different areas, not even just with the Big 12, but other places as well, that it just feels like that is something that I feel like someone's going to announce that they're switching conferences by the time we get to the start of the college football season. By the time college football kicks off, someone's going to have announced that they're switching to a new conference.
I'd feel cheated at this point if we didn't get that. If
I'm
we
kinda
spent so
with
much
you.
energy on it, I feel like we should get something.
We have spent so much of this summer window of just discussing endless realignment news. It does feel cheated if no one does.
Give me at least like San Diego State and SMU to the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Like, give me a little something, a little
Give me a little
treat
taste.
for talking about
Just give me a
this.
taste.
How you feeling about the Royals getting 2 days off?
It's weird. It's really weird.
But as was pointed out to us by a texter from the 913 and by Dale in the YouTube comments today, if they win tomorrow in their opener against the Rockies, that would be 3 straight non-losing days.
It would, and that's such an ultra spin zone, and that's coming from me of all people.
We're in the middle of 4 non-losing days out of 5. If you
Yeah.
really want to get excited.
That's a way to look at it. No, it's been fine. I have really had to like hunt for things to watch on television because I spend so much of my time watching Royals baseball. I subject myself
That's
to
really
that.
depressing.
Hey, buddy, it is what it is, man. But luckily tonight I got the NBA Finals to watch, so I don't have time for anything tonight. I'll just watch the Nuggets and the Heat.
Let's give us a preview then.
I feel bad saying this because sometimes when I say things about sports,
They end up being incorrect.
Oh no.
yeah.
Dan, you can walk out of the room for a minute if you
Well,
want.
I can turn off his mic if I want.
Dan, you can tell me not to say anything. I will leave this in your court. You know what happens.
Go ahead.
I think Nuggets in 5 is probably the play. And I think tonight is a real good start for them.
Boy,
I
I
think
hope
so
you're right
too,
because
for
I've
what it's
been
worth.
wildly anxious. Like
I can't imagine, man.
for 9 days, for like the last week, it's been
Yeah.
like, man, are we even still in the playoffs? Like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
great. I can spend time with my wife. We can clean out the DVR. This is fantastic. And the anxiety has ratcheted up several levels.
I can only imagine, man.
Pretty much since I went to bed last night.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
It's
Probably been a really long day for you.
I'm anxious. I just want it to be 7:30. I'm ready to tip
Yeah.
it off. Let's see it.
I think the Nuggets top to bottom are just a better overall team. I think the Heat have been playing above their skis with their offensive numbers. Eventually, I'd like to think that balances out a little bit. And then plus, I just have the question that I've talked to Dan about and you about off the air. Who guards Nikola Jokic? How do they solve that problem?
I don't think.
Yeah, that's
I
where
think
I
even if they end up winning the series, it's not going to be because we stopped Nikola Jokic, because nobody can do that.
Other guys went banana land, and a few other Nuggets didn't step up.
Caleb Martin had another out of body experience for 2 weeks, and Tyler Hero became like the ultimate X factor.
Yeah.
Did you see that they're targeting game 2 for the Tyler Hero return?
I have seen that. I also know that they played almost the entire playoffs without him, and it can be tough to reintegrate a key cog in the middle of a playoff run.
Dan's right.
I still think I'd rather put him on the floor than Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
Dude, he blocked a
although
shot
at
in Game
least-
7 against the Celtics.
Like Robinson can't guard, but at least he's tall. Hero can't guard and isn't tall.
Yeah.
I mean, what
Robinson also kind of tries. He's just like not very good, but at least there's effort.
Yeah.
Tyler Hero is just there to like get a cool picture for Instagram and hit threes. Like there's really nothing else.
I was about
that
to
he's
ask. I
doing.
mean, what you're basically trying to the question you're asking, Brendan, is which gangly white 3-point shooter do you want on the court?
I don't know. I do not know. That's really hard to me, man. Like that's what is amazing about this Heat run. Like that's not a very good roster.
No,
they are using an actual roster spot and real American federally backed currency to pay Udonis Haslem to take a roster spot.
Yeah.
Like that, they gave away a roster spot,
yes.
and they are in the NBA Finals,
yes.
which is amazing. I don't think they're going to roll over.
No,
but fight.
They're no punk in them.
Like
the
Celtics, the Nuggets are just better. The Nuggets also have the best player in the NBA on their team.
Yeah.
And they, like I told you the other day, they don't have bozo mode. Like they don't, there are no bozo Nuggets like there are the bozo Celtics.
And the big thing with Denver is Miami could find a way to punch them in the mouth and Denver will just wipe the blood off and start punching back. Whereas the Nuggets, you punch them in the mouth and they just go curl up in the fetal position in the corner, which is what they did for like half that series. Whereas Denver's like, oh, you punched me hard. All right, I'm going to start punching back now.
Appreciate your confidence, Fulton. I have had it for the better part of the last like 8 days, and it will be completely gone by the time tip-off goes. And you know they go behind like 7-2 in the first 3 minutes. What are you gonna do
if it's like an 8-0 run for Miami to start the game?
Yeah, like Miami jumps out 8-0, and I'm going to be like making sure my affairs are in order.
What's coming up tomorrow on Mic'd Up?
Jake and I today discussed our biggest offseason questions we had for the Royals coming into this year and had they been answered. So tomorrow we're going to look at our biggest questions now presenting the Royals and what answers we think we'll get over the rest of the season. Craig Brown of Into the Fountains is going to join us to chat a little bit of Royals baseball. And then we're also going to look a little bit at Bobby Witt Jr. and the fact that, his overall numbers are not eye-popping, but he's still doing a lot of things at his age that no one does. And maybe we shouldn't take Bobby Witt Jr. for granted to certain levels.
We'll talk to you tomorrow at noon.
See you guys tomorrow.
That's Fulton Castor heading into his final day before he goes off and catches tons of fish, biblical amounts of fish on the lakes coming up next week. We've got to get to a break here on 580 Sports Talk, but when we come back on the other side of this timeout, we've got our first What Is Wrong With You of the month of June right here on 580 WIBW.
Attention, Kansas.
first What Is Wrong With You of the month here on 580 Sports Talk. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, which saves time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal. Top City Metal Supply is on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. And with that, we've got two new stories to lead off the month. Dan, why don't you go first today?
I will go first. We are going to the greater Chicago metro area, Rich Township. That's southwest.
I think. Now I got to double check. Rich Township High School, that is south. Yeah, that's south suburbs.
South suburbs.
That's down by where my folks once lived, Madison, Illinois.
Okay. How far outside of Chicago can you be and still say you live in Chicago? Like, what's the boundary?
So you got to be within a half an hour drive at least. Like, if you're in Cook County, for sure, that's fine.
Rich Township is in Cook County.
Yeah, that's in southern Cook County. I'm from Cook County. In the county is fine. I would be willing to give you DuPage County. That's one to the west. That's where a lot of money is. But like people from Naperville, you've probably heard.
I know Naperville.
Nikki Lopez is from Naperville.
Yes.
That's too far. That's like a 45-minute plus drive before traffic outside of the city limits. That's too far. That's not Chicago. That's Naperville. And certainly no further than that.
Okay, because I was willing. I think probably people live all the way out to the Fox River would say, I'm from Chicago.
Oh, they would, but they would be wrong.
Well, Carpentersville, but you know.
Yeah, I'm from Joliet. Dog. That is its own city.
Yeah. No, you definitely don't get to do it if you're like an actual city. Like Aurora, no.
No, those are real cities. That's your own thing. So, yeah. Rich Township, though, that definitely counts.
I just pulled up a map of Chicago to try and think of where like the funniest place, like one of my classmates. I went to DePauw University in Western Indiana, and a good chunk of the student body's from Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm trying to find, like, I'm looking around, and I probably either knew or covered an athlete or knew of somebody who was from, like, every one of these. Like, a ton of Chicago kids go down to DePauw. And I had a floor mate my freshman year who was one of those, I'm from Chicago. Well, I'm from this part of Chicago. And look, like, we all do it. Like I tell people I'm from the Denver area, and then I specify if they want me to specify. So I'm not like knocking this, but a kid from Mundelein was saying that they were from Chicago. That appears to be very far north and west. That's almost to Wisconsin.
Yeah, Mundelein is not Chicago.
That's pushing it.
No. Like, it's easy when you're from a place like where I'm from. Like, if I came to Kansas and I said, oh, yeah, I'm from LaGrange Park, Illinois, people would say,
what?
Am I supposed to know what that is? No, I'm from Chicago. You get on the train and you're in the city. It's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're like, oh, no, I'm from Rockford. Rockford is its own city. Yeah. It has an airport. That doesn't count. It's also where Cheap Trick is from.
Although I will say the city of North Chicago is further north than Mundelein. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. I suppose that's fair.
Anyhow, Rich Township, Illinois, for my What Is Wrong With You today. 600 graduating seniors, more than 600 graduating seniors from Rich Township High School. They were all given graduation stoles, like the not a sash, but a stole. It's the thing that goes over your shoulder, right? You can picture this. I don't even remember getting one for high school. I'm sure I did, but I don't remember like getting one.
I know I didn't.
I don't remember anything being written on it, for example. These graduation stoles were given to the graduating seniors of Rich Township High School, and they had the word graduate on it, except no, it didn't. It had the word graduate.
Heavy graduation.
Graduate. Yasir Bilal, a newly graduated student from RTHS, described the moment when his family noticed the gap as he walked across the stage. They could have checked before the ceremony because they made 600 plus, Bilal said, and all of them were spelled wrong. RTHS, in a letter to community members, admitted they never checked the stoles beforehand because why would you? Although I do think, I mean, you look at one, I would think that would stand out. Graduate. I think that typo would stand out on the Stoles. They said they were trying to make amends by photoshopping the misspelled word from graduation pictures. Replacement sashes with correct spelling have been received and will be mailed to graduates with their diplomas.
How? How do you not look at that and say, this is wrong, we cannot do this?
The president of Herf Jones, who is the vendor who manufactured these graduation stoles, took full responsibility for the mistake, saying, I want to express our sincere apologies for the incorrect stoles that may have hindered your graduation experience. We understand the disappointment you are experiencing at the culmination of your education and the frustration this created for all involved.
Graduation. That's incredible. Well, that's hard to beat.
Like, I wouldn't want a new one. No, that would be hilarious. Like, to me, that would be really funny. That wouldn't ruin my day. That would be, like, funny. Like, hey, my graduating class got misspelled stoles. We were all up there as graduates. It was hilarious.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, like, it's high school graduation. Like, and for some folks, that is the highlight of your life. But that's kind of funny. It wasn't just you. It's not like it's not like an athlete walking onto the court with the wrong name on their jersey or the wrong jersey itself or something. Like, nah, it's just wrong spelling. Everyone had it. Funny memory you all get to share.
Very funny.
My story takes us down to Florida, where witnesses reported a woman driving erratically, nearly hitting several families and their children and their pets at Smyrna Dunes Beach Park. 26-year-old Sarah Ramsamy ended up plowing into the water after Volusia County deputies believed she was speeding down the beach at 50 miles an hour in her car. This is not like a beach buggy gone wrong. She was in her car driving on the beach 50 miles an hour. Witnesses claim she was even inches away from hitting a child. Body camera footage shows Ramsamy's blue SUV submerged along the beach's shoreline, waves crashing feet above the trunk. It is a very funny visual. In the footage, deputies asked witnesses who was driving. One woman responded, "They're over there. We're just some people they almost hit." Deputies then approached Ramsamy and her passenger, who were standing in the sand. They asked what happened. Quote, "I'm not sure. I was the driver, and they kind of stopped us and told us we almost hit a child. I didn't think that we did. That's what they told us." Later, Ramsamy told deputies, quote, "We were just trying to turn around. We didn't think we'd get to do a U-turn around here, so we just tried to keep going."
That's not how turning around works.
The arresting deputy told Ramsamy she was going to jail, and she responded with, "And why am I going to jail?" He responded, "So right now, I think you're driving under the influence." They then gave her a breathalyzer, and she blew nearly 2 times the legal limit.
Jeez.
0.153.
Oh, my gosh.
She was sauteed. And her SUV being stuck in the sand and having waves crash on it is a very funny visual.
That is. It is. It's very humorous. The SUV just chilling in the water.
I didn't know where to turn around, so we just kept going.
Yeah. That's my strategy when I need to turn around is I just keep plowing forward, regardless of what might be in my way, like people or animals. That's how it goes for me.
They told us we almost had a child.
Hey,
I didn't see it.
News to me. I mean, we were just out for a drive, trying to turn around.
Who's your winner for today?
I got to go with the graduate just because it's such an easily avoidable mistake.
Graduate. That's really funny. I'm with you. We'll give that one the win for today. Our first June winner in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Let's get to a break. When we come back, UConn to the Big 12 rumors are getting more and more hard to ignore. How much sense does it make for both parties? We'll discuss next on 580 Sports Talk.
Hello, this is
444 on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Thanks so much for being a part of the show with us today. No Royals baseball tonight. They have a second consecutive off day. Shout out to Rob Manfred. Actually, no shout out to Rob Manfred. We talked about this a little bit with Fulton earlier, and obviously we've spoken a ton over the last couple of years now about realignment in college sports. And recently, that's a relative term, it's been about who might the Big 12 try to continue adding. Brett Yormark made the comment last year, maybe even before he took the job, when he had been hired but hadn't fully taken over the job. He had mentioned that the Big 12 is open for business. Well, there's been a lot of smoke. There have been a lot of rumors for a year now about the Big 12 being interested in the two schools from Arizona and Colorado and Utah. And, well, what if Oregon and Washington wanted to leave, but they didn't get into the Big 10? Would they come to the Big 12? And, well, if the ACC falls apart, maybe the Big 12 goes after Louisville and Pitt or some other combination of schools, et cetera, et cetera. Will the Big 12 break apart again? Will teams leave? There have been tons of rumors. Well, in the last week, it has gotten to a point where it's pretty hard to ignore the fact that there is a lot of talk about Colorado coming to the Big 12. And at some point, maybe taking a vote on an invitation. I'm pretty sure, I don't have this confirmed, but I wouldn't be shocked at all to know that Brett Yormark has already reached out to the University of Colorado, and the other brass of the Big 12 have done the same and said, you have an invitation. We would like you to come back to the Big 12. And they're just waiting on Colorado to make it happen. And Colorado's AD, Rick George, as we've talked about before, went from, no, we are in the Pac-12. We're going to keep the Pac-12 together. Our media contract's going to be great, et cetera. It's now, we're going to do what's best for Colorado. And we're happy to be in the Pac-12 now, but we're going to do what's best for us. That tells you all you need to know without getting the specific exact wording from that school and that program. That's getting hard to ignore. We talked about Colorado the other day. It makes sense. Bring the rivalries back. All good with Colorado. And if anyone else from out west wants to come figure that out too, that's fine.
It's fascinating to me how much Deion Sanders seems to be involved in this.
Yeah.
Like, we have discussed this, but like, they are very seriously like looping Deion in. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Deion later on the program. We got a thing we want to get to in regards to Coach Prime.
I have a thing with Deion. I agree.
But I don't know that you should make long-term plan. And I don't even think this is necessarily like a specific complaint to Deion Sanders. I don't think you should be making any plans that involve like who our football coach is right now. With as much as that job changes hands at so many schools, how can you be sure your head coach is going to be your head coach 5 years from now? How many programs in the country can honestly say, yeah, the guy we got on our sideline right now is going to be the guy on our sideline in 5 years?
The longest tenured coach in the league is Mike Gundy. He has genuinely been around for forever. Do you know who's the next longest tenured after that?
In the Big 12?
In the Big 12.
Is it Kleiman?
It's Matt Campbell.
Oh, it's Campbell.
It feels like Campbell just got there. Like, I know he's been around for a while now. Matt Campbell's been there 8 years. Then Kleiman, it's been 4. Neil Brown's been around for a few. Kleiman and Neil Brown got hired the same year, did they not? Yeah, because that was the year that all those schools brought in new.
Yeah, that's correct.
Leipold's only been around for going into year 3. It'll be year 2 for Venables, year 2 for Dykes. Aranda for a few years, but not a ton. Like, it's hard to project that. There are not a lot of coaches that stick around for forever. And Colorado's not Alabama, right? Like, when you win all the time and you can stay forever, it's not Kirby Smart going back to his alma mater at Georgia and winning 2 straight national titles when he can be there till he retires. Like, that's not what Colorado is, and that's not who Deion Sanders is. That's not who coaches are in general in college football.
Just not the profession in modern college football.
So, shoot, Brian Kelly could have been a guy like that, and he left. He left Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma.
Yeah, so every school in the country has to think if Oklahoma and Notre Dame are used as stepping stone jobs, then our job could very easily be the same.
So I agree with you. I don't get it why Deion is so involved intimately, but
the flip side is Deion is the first interesting thing about Colorado football in 20 years. And we know that. And so
Very disrespectful to Steven Montez, but that's fine.
Maybe this is as much as Cepho. I was a Cepho Lufau
Oh,
guy.
yeah. Cepho Lufau.
Big Cepho guy.
Remember some post-Big 12 Colorado guys?
Bernard Jackson never got a fair shake. It does feel like putting Dion like in the shop window and saying like, hey, this is our shiny thing that makes us attractive. And right now this has raised our, raised the interest level in us, raised our profile, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still strange because I don't think Dion's going to care what league Colorado's playing in 5 years, because I don't think he's going to be there in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, it does. It makes all the sense in the world. You have the history there. You have like proximity. I think it is a much better fit for them than the crumbling Pac-12. And I know there are some Colorado fans who think, we left that league behind for a reason, but like, welcome, come on home is all I would say to those people.
The grass is not always greener, but you also don't get a chance to go back to your old patch of grass very often, and buffaloes need to graze.
Yes.
So come on home to the Plains. The other school that has had a lot of rumors pop up, we talked about this a week ago, and we thought this is out of nowhere, about UConn, and that the Big 12 was interested, and that Brett Yormark took a campus tour in stores. I'd like to give you the chance to expand on what you brought up when we were cross-talking with Fulton earlier about the Big 12 going into essentially a football league and a basketball league and having separate rights, and the approach of taking basketball schools, because you don't get anything adding UConn football. You just don't. And honestly, I don't think UConn football would want to be in a conference. Like that's not a good talent area in terms of college football skill. You can go to even a crappy bowl game every year if you play an independent schedule. That's a good fit for them. The basketball is a big deal, but like as it's currently constructed, it doesn't make sense to me why you would leave the Big East. It seems like a great fit. As currently constructed, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for the Big 12 to add such an outlier, but maybe the point is things won't keep looking like they have been currently constructed.
Never mind why the Big 12 would want to do this, because I think I understand the Big 12's line of thinking, because it dovetails with their conversations that they've had with Gonzaga. The idea that we are going to make our basketball brand super powerful. We are going to go all in on basketball in a way that no other conference in America is going to go all in on basketball. We're going to be the premier basketball league in America. If that's Brett Yormark's vision, then you can go out and it only makes sense to add them in pairs, right? If you're going to go get Gonzaga, who doesn't have football, and go get from the other coast, go get UConn, who has a football program that they might be more inclined to leave independent rather than have them play a Big 12 schedule. I think that makes more sense for them. Just like UMass. UMass has independent Division I FBS football, but they play basketball in the Atlantic 10. Like they've separated. Mm-hmm. Bigger question for me is, why does UConn want to do this? Because
agreed,
it feels like UConn and the Big East is the happy place for the Huskies, for their athletic department. Like that's where they belong. That's where their basketball program, which is the identity of their athletic department. Football will never be the identity of UConn athletics. It will always be a basketball school first and foremost. And being in the Big East has been the place where their basketball program has thrived. It thrived under Jim Calhoun. It has now thrived again, thrived anew under Danny Hurley, the reigning national champions. It just feels like the Big East makes sense. It's where they belong. Now, Big 12 can cut them a big check. That would make them not worry so much about where it is that they spiritually might belong. But I feel like the best thing for UConn is to be in the Big East. I think that's been proven over time, that the best thing for UConn and the best thing for their tentpole athletic program, which is not just the men, but the women's basketball program as well, the best thing for them is the Big East. But if Brett Yormark wants them that bad, I think that is indicative of their larger strategy, which is we are going to build out our basketball brand, and we're going to do that with some schools where we do not have to consider what it might do to our football brand.
It's an interesting thought. And I mean, if you want to try to maximize your dollars, if you say we're going to split up our basketball and our football rights and have two separate packages, maybe that makes the most business sense. I don't know, because I am not privy to what those potential numbers would look like. I want the things that make college sports unique and special to stay unique and special. Like those rivalries, the regional rivalries, the things that have lasted for over 100 years. I want those things to stick around. And I know so much of those have already been torn down, but it's a perfect fit for you. I almost would hope UConn would say no. Like
Yeah.
the Big East is in a great spot basketball-wise. And like that's a fun league. That's rival. They threw a party at Madison Square Garden when UConn came back to the Big East.
Yeah.
Like that, it's such a fit. It's a perfect fit.
It's a college basketball brand. It's a college sports brand that still means something, that still has some history and some nostalgia attached to it, even though it's not the same.
Mhm.
And it will never be the same. It will never be what it was when it was the defining college basketball league in the 1980s as the sport was exploding in popularity. It's never going to be that again,
Mhm.
but it can still be Seton Hall versus St. John's at Madison Square Garden. It can still be UConn going at it against Villanova. Like it can still be an extremely meaningful, if Georgetown ever got good again.
Mhm. They might with Ed Cooley.
It can still mean a lot to a lot of people. I think it can still mean a lot to an athletic department. And I think it means a lot to UConn. And so I would be surprised unless the dollar figure is just too much to say no to.
We've got a bunch coming up in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. That's how we're going to lead off the 5 o'clock hour of the show. Don't forget to send your text to 785-272-9429. You can check us out on YouTube, where the name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Let's take a break for the news. We're back after that on 580 Sports Talk.
My brother-in-law died
1 hour left on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dorzinski. He is Dan Lucero, and we're with you until 6 o'clock today. No Royals baseball tonight. Royals are back in action tomorrow, however, as they start a weekend set with the Colorado Rockies. We've still got a busy 5 o'clock hour coming your way. That includes a busy day of 580 Sports Talk headlines. Also a note about something Deion Sanders does that I think sucks. And some people are probably going to think, no, that's smart. That's a really good idea. And my response to that will be, I'm glad you're not my dad. It's weird, and I don't like Deion Sanders. I just don't find him very likable at all. I get why people like Prime. I don't. And we got a story about him coming up in just a little bit. Of course, we're getting to your texts as well. 785-272-9429 is the text line number, and we welcome your comments on our YouTube stream as well. The name of our YouTube channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Just head to youtube.com, click on the search bar, and search for Sports on 580. Once you get there, will be the first result. You can hit subscribe right from the search, and then you can see all of our live videos whenever we go live pop up right on your YouTube home screen. You can only do that if you subscribe. That is Sports on 580 WIBW, the name of our YouTube account. Before we get to our full headlines, do want to update you that Stanford lost in the first round of the Women's College World Series. They fall to the top seed, Oklahoma, by a margin of 2-0. Nyjah Kennedy goes 5 innings in the game, allowed 4 hits and 1 walk, struck out 7, and allowed 1 earned run, 1 unearned run on an error on Oklahoma's left fielder. You want to talk about a tough luck loss? That might be, you could argue, that's the best individual pitching performance against Oklahoma all season.
It's as good as it gets. I mean, you're going to have a lot of trouble finding too many better. Fulton had the stat for us when we were talking to him on Crosstalk. That's only the 5th time in 58 games that Oklahoma hasn't scored in the first 4 innings this season, which is a preposterous thing to comprehend. And Nyjah traded blows very effectively with Oklahoma's star sophomore Jordy Ball. It was the All-American for the Sooners, Jada Coleman, slapping a 2-out 0-2 pitch into left field for an RBI single, another run scoring on the play on an error by the Stanford left fielder. And that was all she wrote as Oklahoma wrapped up their 33rd win by shutout of their 57 wins in 58 games and their 49th win in a row.
Stupid.
It really is.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, Nyjah went up against the Monstars, man. That's really what you're dealing with there.
And she was awesome.
She was terrific.
You give up 1 run in 5 innings against the best team maybe ever. Nothing but praise and adulation deserved by Nyjah Kennedy, the Topeka High grad. What a performance today. Just a little too bad that Stanford could not pull out the victory, so they will head to the losers bracket of the Women's College World Series. Oklahoma, unsurprisingly, onto the winner side of the bracket. Let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. A couple of college basketball notes for me to lead things off today, and we'll start with the Kansas State Wildcats. They are going to open up the season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dan, this is on a Monday night, and that is correct. November 6th, Monday, November 6th, K-State is going to play in Vegas against Bronny James and the USC Trojans. That was reported earlier on today. What is the name of this event? Does it have one?
I have no idea.
I think there is a name to this, but I need to pull it up and make sure that I know. This is obviously going to be a game that gets a lot of nationwide attention because of who is going to be playing on the other side for USC, that being Bronny James. No, this event might actually not have a name to it. I thought John Rothstein had one, but he doesn't. So it'll be a big game for that reason. But if you're a K-State fan, you'll get to see a new-look Cats team. No Keontae Johnson, no Desi Sills, no Marquise Noel. You add Tyler Perry. By that point, I assume K-State will have other players to add as well. I do not think they are done in the transfer portal one way or the other, but K-State is going to open up the college basketball season on a Monday night. That'll be one of the first games of the year. Additionally, the other game at that event will be Oregon versus Georgia. Georgia was better this year than they had been in recent years. And I don't really know that Dana Altman wants to keep coaching. Like this year, I kind of felt every time I watched Oregon, like that dude don't want to be here.
He wasn't having a whole lot of fun. He called out the fans. Like
never good.
It wasn't a great year. Wasn't a real fun, enjoyable year for him.
So that is your season opening event on November 6th. I'm going to guess that game is going to be on ESPN2 in all likelihood because it's a Monday night in the football season, and that means Monday Night Football is going to be on big ESPN that night. Also from college basketball from the portal today, the Big 12 just keeps adding talent. Ray J. Dennis, who scored 19.5 points per game for, I believe it was Toledo this past year, was the MAC Player of the Year. He is transferring to Baylor. Baylor beating out Illinois and Utah to get the rights to the best point guard in all likelihood remaining in the transfer portal. Again, 19.5 points per game. Not a huge player, not an especially quick player, but he is a very gifted scorer at the point. And for a team that lost LJ Cryer and Adam Flagler and bench ability with Dale Bonner, among other players, they needed a dynamic guard, and Baylor got him in Ray J. Dennis. So that is your portal and college basketball scheduling update for today.
We'll keep the news in college basketball. We had mentioned on yesterday's program that last night, midnight, was the deadline for deciding whether or not a player going through the NBA draft process could either keep their name in the draft or withdraw from the draft and return to either their previous school or stay in the transfer portal. Some notable decisions that were made after we went off the air. The reigning National Player of the Year, Zach Edey from Purdue. He's coming back to school. He will not stay in the draft. He will come back to Purdue and try and author a better finish for his college career than the finish to his previous season in which they lost to a number 16 seed.
Purdue has a player who's 7'4", and they lost to a team of a bunch of guys under 6'6".
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Fairleigh Dickinson.
Because all of Purdue's guards were just
they sucked.
Buns.
They sucked. Big suckage. And they're bringing pretty much everyone back.
Yeah, they'll all be back. I mean, a year older, a year better, you'd like to think. They'll be good. They'll be preseason top 5 in all likelihood and a popular Final Four pick. They also lost to a 16 seed. The year after losing to a 15 seed.
God, when they lose to a 10 seed in the second round last year, all of West Lafayette going to feel vindicated by that. All of West Lafayette.
Other big decisions. Jordan Walsh from Arkansas. You may remember him for having Jalen Wilson in hell in round 2 of the NCAA tournament this past March when Arkansas eliminated the defending champion Kansas Jayhawks. He's going to stay in the draft. I think as a 3-and-D wing,
bye.
He's going to be an interesting prospect because the defense part of that equation, very, very strong.
Yeah, there's freakish potential with him as the most annoying player in the NBA. And I mean that as a compliment. I genuinely mean that as a compliment. I would never, if I was an SEC fan, I would never want to see that dude again. KU's not even going to play Arkansas this year, and I never want to see that dude again. They also they got a big name player back as well. Arkansas did. Devo Davis.
Yes, Devo Davis, who was the best player in the second half of Arkansas's comeback win over Kansas. He was, I think he was already a super senior. I think he's getting a 6th year. I
saw someone say this is the first player to ever use all their eligibility on an Eric Musselman team. Which might be true.
Yeah, I think there is some truth to that. Also, good news for the Texas Longhorns. Dylan Mitchell withdrew his name from the draft process. He played 17 minutes a game last year for Texas as a freshman. A lot of people thought he was going to be a one and done and maybe a top 10 draft pick coming out of Texas, but saw his playing time diminish as Christian Bishop and Dylan Dessou proved to be kind of what that team needed in terms of veteran presence and toughness in the post. But Mitchell's a terrific athlete, a big-time prospect pedigree, and would expect him to be one of the better players in the Big 12 as a sophomore. So that was a big deal for Texas that he is coming back. Also, big day for the Illinois Fighting Illini and Brad Underwood. Coleman Hawkins and Terrence Shannon Jr. both announced that they were withdrawing from the draft process and returning to Illinois. So that'll be another. It was very funny to read like Jeff Borzello or whatever, name a college basketball writer. Every time a return was announced, I don't know if they were doing this on purpose, but it felt like every time somebody announced they were returning to school, they would say, that team looks like a preseason top 10 team next year. It's like, how many? You're at 24 in your top 10? How's that possible? Make the math work.
T10, just a big list of teams. Illinois had as good of a day as anybody getting TJ Shannon and Coleman Hawkins back. Both dudes that I think would have gotten drafted. Big Ten, top of the Big Ten is probably going to be pretty good next year. Purdue, Illinois, Michigan State, Wisconsin, I think, has had a good offseason. They got AJ Storr, transfer from St. John's, who's a good shooter, young player too.
Maybe one of those teams will see the second weekend in the NCAA tournament. Who can say?
Maybe they'll get lucky. By the way, news from TCU should probably mention Emmanuel Miller coming back for another year. Damian Baugh staying in the draft. That one surprised me a little bit.
I kind of thought if either one of them was going to stay, it was going to be Baugh. I don't know that he'll get drafted though. He might he might get squeezed out. He might be a two-way guy that signs after the draft, but I'm not surprised. I guess I'm not shocked. Yeah.
No, I feel that. And some guys, that we've talked about this point a bunch. I know I specifically have. Like sometimes guys just want to leave. Like, yeah, I know I might not get drafted. I might be a two-way guy. I might just be a G League signing. I might have to go overseas. I'm just done. And I
don't want to play school anymore.
I get it.
Yeah.
100%
let me go make this my living.
Also, Reese Beekman returning to Virginia. Thought he might go, but he's going to return to Virginia. That's a big get for Tony Bennett's team.
Jalen Jackson Jr. Andre Jackson Jr. Jalen Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. already in the NBA.
Yeah.
Andre Jackson Jr. staying in the NBA draft, one of the stars of UConn's national championship team.
And I think, was there another one that had stood out to me? I cannot remember. Anton Watson from Gonzaga. He's coming back as well.
Yes.
It's a good get for Gonzaga. Good to keep him. Next headline for me. This one just broke within the last hour or so. The SEC has admitted we are gigantic, whiny cowards.
We are cowards.
They have voted already this year for 2023. The schedule's already out. They're going to play an 8-game conference schedule. That's dumb. Everyone else already plays 9, whatever. They have voted for 1 year in 2024. They're going to keep their 8-game schedule, and they're going to get rid of divisions starting in 2024. So this year, it'll be status quo. 2024, they are going to go to a no divisions 8-game format, and they will require all 16 of their members to play at least one Power 5 non-conference game. A couple ancillary notes here. Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated says the league will preserve, or has said they will preserve, primary and secondary rivalries when they do this. So if you're Alabama, they are going to keep Tennessee, they are going to keep Auburn, and then play 6 other teams from around the conference. That's how I would read that. If you are Georgia, that probably means you get, I don't know who that would mean if you're Georgia. Honestly, they have a bunch. Georgia's got a ton of rivalries. They've got Florida, they've got Tennessee, they've got Auburn. Within the last 20 years, they've developed something of a rivalry with South Carolina. They're not going to keep that one, but you know what I mean. You're only keeping 2. Bad idea. This whole thing is a very bad idea. This is from Scott Docterman, who covers Iowa for The Athletic. Looking at the 5 Power 5 conferences, here's how many teams in each are playing 10 or more Power 5 opponents next year. In the ACC, 10 of 15, if you include Notre Dame, 10 of the 15 are playing 10 or more Power 5 opponents. In the Big 10, 13 of the 14 teams. That's almost the whole league. The Big 12, 11 of the 14 are going to play 10 or more Power 5 opponents. In the Pac-12, 10 of 12. In the SEC, 2 of 14 will play 10 or more Power 5 opponents. I thought you were the big dogs. I thought you guys were the best conference. Shouldn't you be able to prove it? Isn't that what you guys are supposed to be able to prove, that you can play against the best? No, this is cowardly. You can tell me whatever you want to say about, well, ESPN was going to offer more money, or, well, we don't have to, so why would we? You can say whatever you want. You are cowards.
Yeah.
This is a cowardly move.
This is all about preserving bowl eligibility for your weakest members. It's hard to view it any other way.
Like, have you thought about getting good? Like, sorry, Kentucky, you had a bad November and you ended up 5-7 because you didn't get to play Wofford in week 12. Sorry, tough beans. That's football for you. That's how it works. That sucks. That's lame.
I think Andy Staples of the formerly of the Athletic had the perfect take on this on Twitter a little bit ago. It is loser thinking that won for 2024. Here's hoping they stop bowing to the begging to be bowl eligible crowd for 2025. Yeah, damn right. Here's hoping.
Yeah, that sucks. Brett McMurphy also had a wild tweet that they were going to send 9-game schedule T-shirts to a third world country. Very funny, very wild.
Yeah, that's something else. All right. What do you say after a brief one-day hiatus? What do you say that we bring back everybody's favorite segment within a segment? It's time for a finals edition of the
Playoffs
Roundup.
Here we go.
The playoff roundup, where we break down all of the action in the NBA and NHL playoffs. And we've got action to break down as tonight the NBA Finals open. And for the first time ever, they take place in the Mile High City. The Denver Nuggets, the top seed in the Western Conference, taking on the number 8 seed out of the East, the Cinderella Miami Heat, in Game 1 of the Finals. The Heat seeking their 4th NBA championship, first since 2013, while the Nuggets, in their first ever Finals, obviously seeking their first ever NBA championship. The Nuggets are 8.5-point favorites, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. Going into this Game 1, they have been off since last Monday when they finished off a Western Conference Finals sweep of the Lakers, while Miami was dragged to 7 games by the Boston Celtics in an Eastern Conference Finals that just ended this Monday. The spread has actually gone up to -9. I want to apologize. The latest spread is Denver -9. The series line, I want to try and see here. Believe it opened at -400. It is currently now Denver -460.
So, in other words, for those of you not into the gambling, to win $100, you'd have to bet 460.
I'm trying to get the implied odds here. The -460. The implied odds of something that is -460 occurring is 82%. So that is what at least FanDuel Sportsbook has determined, and I'm sure most of the gambling houses are probably in a rough agreement that this is about an 82% chance that the Denver Nuggets win the NBA Finals.
That's wild. But I can't blame them. I really don't. I blame them. I mean, the bookmakers. I think that's probably about right, if not underselling it a little bit for Denver. I'm picking Nuggets in 5. I think the Heat are going to play tough. I think they're going to fight because that's just what they do. That's what their leader does on the court, and Jimmy Butler. That's what their coach does, and Eric Spoelstra. I just don't see it. They're not nearly as talented. They're not nearly as deep. Just don't see it happening.
The argument for the Heat, and it's one that I respect because, I mean, they've been here before. They were in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals last year and lost. They were in the finals in the bubble in 2020. So this isn't new for the Heat, even though they had a difficult regular season this year, finished 44-38. This is not like uncharted territory for this group of Heat players. It's a team that's largely stayed together.
Yep.
And looks very similar to how it looked in 2020. The argument for the Heat is, well, they're well coached. They've got a toughness and a stubbornness about them that makes them really hard to play against. They don't quit. They keep coming at you. They're mentally tough, all of these things. And that's all true. It's also true about their opponent in a way that I don't think it was true about the team they beat in the first round, the Milwaukee Bucks, because I don't think that team was well coached. Also, their best player hurt his back real bad. And it was definitely not true about the team that they upset in the Eastern Conference Finals. That was not a well-coached, very together, very mentally tough Boston Celtics team, which we've been over. Denver's tough as hell, man. They went 12-3 through the Western Conference playoffs. They had to beat a Minnesota team, and say what you will about the Timberwolves. That's a team with 4 all-stars on that roster, or 4 guys who have been all-stars in their career. They had to go through Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and a Suns team that was in the finals 2 years ago. They had to go through LeBron and Anthony Davis and a Laker team that won a title in 2020. They ripped through those teams. The only games the Nuggets have lost in these playoffs are games where somebody on the other team went ballistic. It took 34 points from Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, to beat the Nuggets in game 4 of the first round series. And that only happened because Nikola Jokic missed a free throw with 3 seconds left that would have put the Nuggets ahead. And they lost in overtime because Mike Conley banked in a 3-pointer from the corner. They lost 2 games in the Phoenix series when Devin Booker and Kevin Durant had out-of-body experiences and were the greatest shooters who had ever lived, particularly Booker. They didn't lose to the Lakers, even though there was a game in that series where Anthony Davis had 40 points. There was a game in that series where LeBron had 31 in the first half, and that didn't matter. I am uncomfortable as a fan. I'm going to talk as a fan now for a second here. I am deeply uncomfortable with the idea of being this big a favorite.
Feels like something's wrong.
Yeah, if it feels like, no, this is
what am I missing?
Yes, this is the thing that happens to somebody else. Like I can't be seeing this correctly. This is not what happens to the Denver Nuggets. Like, this is the Lakers' position when they go in the finals and they've got Kobe and Shaq and they're minus 460 to win a title. Like, that makes sense. Or when it was the Spurs with Duncan, like, that made sense. For the Nuggets to be this highly favored to win this series, it just, I'm having trouble having it compute. But like, all the available evidence says they have the best player in the series. They're a better offensive team. They match up like physically really well. Miami's not a big team. Denver's huge. Jokic is huge.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who's going to guard him, Bam Adebayo, 6'9". They don't have like a backup center who's going to slow down Jokic. They don't have a Rui Hachimura they can bring in who can at least bang with Jokic. They don't have that. Like, Kevin Love is not that guy. Cody Zeller is not that guy. It just feels like Denver poses too many questions for Miami to, like, Miami's going to scramble and fight hard, but it's like a ship where there are holes in the dike.
Yeah.
And there's two or holes in the hull, and there's just too many holes that you can't plug them all.
Yep.
And too many problems that I don't think Miami's going to be able to solve in this series. I do think Denver wins the series. I think they win game 1 tonight. Miami's won all 3 of their game 1s on the road, but Denver's had 10 days off to get fresh, and they've not just won all of their game 1s at home. They've dominated all of their game 1s at home. So something's got to give. I think it's going to be Miami coming off of that grueling game 7.
I don't know. Rest versus rust.
Not worried about the rust.
I wouldn't be either.
Not even a little bit. I think Denver wins tonight. I think Denver wins the series. Last night felt like Christmas Eve. I was watching all the highlights of all the playoff games, the ones that they won. Like, I just reliving it because it's been so long since I've watched them play basketball. And now the anxiety and the nerves are starting to spike because it's this thing. And you can all relate to this, even if you are not like me, somebody with a rooting interest in this specific championship series or round. You can all relate to this. That feeling of, this is something you want very badly and perhaps have wanted for your entire life. Like, I have wanted this, and you have no control. Just no control. You can satiate yourself with all of the stats and all of the evidence and you can read all of the positive press you want, but at the end of the day, they got to go play the game. And me personally, I have no control of this outcome. And that's the part that makes you like vibrate for an entire 12 hours before the game tips off.
How many games?
Feels like 5. A lot of people are saying, well, it's 6 because I'm giving the Heat respect. And it's it's one thing to respect the Heat. But again, all the things that you say about the Heat that should keep them in this series, Denver's got those things too.
Yeah, the respect is them getting even 1 in this series. I'll take the Nuggets in 5. Final headline for me today. It's one more from the NBA because this amount of money being paid to a head coach is truly eye-popping. Monty Williams, most recently the coach of the Phoenix Suns, he has agreed to a contract for 6 years with the Detroit Pistons, who are awful, for $78.5 million, the largest coaching deal in NBA history. That is absolutely insane. For what it's worth, and I needed to pull this up to make sure, We were talking about college coaches and how they don't stick around for all that long. How many coaches do you think have been with their current team for 6 years?
For 6 years?
6 years.
In college football or?
In the NBA.
In the NBA.
Monty Williams got a 6-year deal.
Have been with their current team for 6 years. We get 2 of them facing off in the finals, which is an argument for continuity.
Yep.
With Michael Malone and Eric Spoelstra. Other than them, it can't be more than 5.
4. There are 4 NBA coaches who have been with their team for more than 6 years. They include Michael Malone, who got the job in 2015, Steve Kerr in 2014, Eric Spoelstra in 2008, and Greg Popovich, who got the job in 1996 when he fired the guy before him and then took his job. The next oldest tenure in the NBA, June of 2019. That was Taylor Jenkins of the Memphis Grizzlies, who I still am like, do I actually know who you are? And they gave this dude a 6-year deal for the worst team in the NBA over the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's wild.
A 20-year stretch that even includes a championship. Unbelievable.
It's $13 million a season. You know who makes less than $13 million a year? Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Atlanta Braves.
That's outrageous, man.
The front runner for National League MVP, who is on a long-term contract, makes less money than Monty Williams is going to make. Good coaches are probably undervalued, but he not underpaid.
No, I do not get that at all. That does it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines, though. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, a story that made me dislike Deion Sanders even more. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. It's 5:35 on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Appreciate you being a part of the show with us today. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6, plus a little 580 Sports Talk overtime. And we actually will have a Royals game to preview.
Yeah.
Starting a series with the Colorado Rockies coming up tomorrow. So we've got Dan versus listeners week or weekend here on 580 Sports Talk. You saw this story today, Dan, from where is this? The National Auto Dealers Association,
Yes.
or NADA?
Yes, the National Auto Dealers Association convention. There was an article on Slate about the NADA convention. Big deal thing every year. Automobile dealers, by and large, pretty wealthy, have some opinions on EV, electric vehicles that are not like, they don't like them.
Yeah.
Like, you can probably figure out why that might be the case.
Right.
So, and they have a yearly convention every year. I don't know, like there's guest speakers, lots of like politicians will go there. This year it was Nikki Haley, governor of South Carolina, was there. There was a lot of thought she was going to announce she was running for president while at this convention. Like it's a big deal. These people are movers and shakers, and they are able to influence things politically. They're a pretty powerful lobby, and they have keynote speakers and they have musicians who come and perform. Like Brad Paisley did a performance at this year's convention. Nelly performed.
Sure.
The Sugar Hill Gang.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
There was no act from the last 30 years they could have pulled out instead?
I don't know. I guess they did like a lot of songs like as tributes to all their friends who have died recently from the rap game, like Biz Markie and other contemporaries.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah, kind of depressing.
Yeah, really depressing.
Like a depressing Sugar Hill Gang show.
What the hell?
At the NADA convention. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's a whole article, and it just details what happens at the National Auto Dealers Association. And one of their keynote speakers this year was Deion Sanders, which seems like an odd fit, right? Deion Sanders talking to a bunch of car dealers.
When I think Deion, I think fuel injector engines.
Yeah, like he's got some thoughts on carburetors. Like,
how do we curb the catalytic converter theft problem in this country?
But it seems that Deion, who spoke on Sunday morning at the convention, like bright and early Sunday morning, 9 a.m. That's not bright and early for some people, I understand. But
it is for me.
Hey,
not that much.
If you go hard on Saturday night, as I imagine you probably do if you're at the NADA convention, 9 a.m. probably feels pretty bright and early on Sunday. Anyhow, Deion Sanders spoke, and this is how it is written in the Slate article. Sanders, more polished than his keynote predecessors, hit the right notes of flattery and ideology that the dealers were looking for. He sympathized with the challenges of running a family business dogged by disappointing progeny, and told the crowd that he ranks his kids every month to combat the malign forces of youth softness. Apparently, this was the broader theme of his speech, that America and the youth are too soft these days. We got to get back to basics and toughen them up. You know, red meat kind of speech. He ranks his kids. He's got 5 of them, by the way. 2 of them play football for him at the University of Colorado. Shadur and Shiloh. And he ranks them like it's the Associated Press top 25. He ranks his kids every month to keep them from going soft on him.
Hey, this sucks. Like, this isn't even like, oh man, Deion, he's wild. No, this sucks.
This isn't like, oh, that wacky Coach Prime always doing wacky things. No, like, I totally believe that in complete sincerity, Deion would sit down his 5 children and say, hey, you were slow to react when I asked you to empty the dishwasher this week. You dropped to 4th. You're down 2 spots from last week. Shiloh, sorry, bud.
Man, I hate this. And it makes me like Deion Sanders even less. Look, if you, we're going to get away from sports here for a second, but if you have a problem with how soft or unsoft the youth of the United States of America are right now, which of these do you think is a more useful way? And I mean, I'm still fairly young. Which of these is a more useful way when you speak it out loud to help people toughen up a little bit? Do you A, treat them like garbage in front of their peers, aka their siblings and the rest of their family? Or B, teach them values that would lead to feeling more empowered, more stronger in their beliefs, stronger in their desires,
more
stronger in what they
confidence.
think is more confidence, stronger beliefs in what is right and what is wrong? That sounds like
parenting.
a way to instill toughness. Like, hey, I'm going to teach you what happens when you have to go through hardships. When you go through something you don't like, you expected something to happen and you didn't achieve it, or someone got picked over you. What do? I'm going to teach you that. Instead, nah, Shiloh, you dropped that pass in practice down to 5th. Screwed up the whole drill. Like, this sounds like a moron.
This sounds like something that Logan Roy would have done on Succession. And I know we're referencing Succession a lot. The finale was on Sunday. It's been heavy on my mind all week. One of my favorite TV shows ever. It does, though. It sounds like the kind of thing that a broken man does to break his children. To bring them to a level where they are always at heel, always trying to. This has nothing to do with toughening them up, and has everything to do with him trying to make sure that everything they do is in service of pleasing him.
See, and this might sound to some like a bit of a stretch, and if that's the case, fair enough. But this is why, like, how do you trust this guy in terms of making him the focal point of your entire athletic department and to a degree your university, and saying we would like him to actually be, at least to some degree, intimately involved with conference realignment. We want to put him all over everything everywhere. We're going to allow him to make his documentary series. We're going to put Prime everywhere, and we're going to build up everything around Coach Prime. How do you trust a guy who is so wrapped up in himself and his own ideals that he does this to his own kids, or at least acts like this around his own kids? And the way he treated the players at Jackson State on his way out the door, the way he's treated the players who were already at Colorado when he got there. Like, you can come in and treat players with respect, even if you're churning through the roster. You didn't hear a word about Rick Pitino overturning the St. John's roster. And I get it. It's 100 kids versus 12 kids. St. John's kept like 2 players. And I think one of them might have been a walk-on. Mm-hmm. Like, they said, no, we want Soriano back, and that's it. Like, everyone else move on. But they took care of their guys. They helped them find homes. There was no bad blood there. It was just, hey, it's a new regime. Deion treated those kids like dirt. Like, how do you trust this guy? And I know it sounds like a leap going from he's weird at home to you can't trust this guy to be your head football coach. But genuinely, like, this is just another little breadcrumb in the trail of, hey, this guy doesn't really seem trustworthy, huh?
This is who Deion Sanders is. This is who Deion Sanders has always been. He has never done anything that is not in the service of Deion Sanders. Now, you might be adjacent enough to Deion Sanders to get to benefit from this. If you are, say, the Atlanta Braves, when he helped you go to a World Series, or if you are the Dallas Cowboys or the San Francisco 49ers, whom he helped win Super Bowls, you may be proximal enough to Deion Sanders and his gifts that you might be able to benefit. Jackson State did for 3 years. Colorado is hoping that they can as a football program, not as an institution. This has nothing to do with the University of Colorado as a learning institution. Everything to do with Colorado football, which has been a joke for 2 decades. The idea is that they will benefit from something from being around Deion Sanders, for being near enough to Deion Sanders doing the things that Deion Sanders does in the service of the brand of, the success of, the promotion of, the glory of Deion Sanders. That's all this is. That's all this style of parenting is, too, to make sure that your children are so servile. They compete for their ranking. They compete for their place in your ranking. That's about you. That's got nothing to do with them. That's all about you. And that just tracks with everything that Deion Sanders has ever done. This is all about him. This isn't about developing football players. This isn't about the University of Colorado. This isn't about anything other than, look at me, I'm Deion Sanders. I am so great. I am so blessed and highly favored.
And the confidence to share this with many people.
And to think that will come off like,
yeah, to think that we would be on your side.
Yeah, like people would hear this anecdote and be like, yeah, that's right, Deion, you show those kids. Good take from the 785 on the text line. At least 2 of his kids playing for him must have been high enough on his list to be his luggage that he brought to Colorado. I hope they lose every game. Imagine thinking you're that important. Bring them to the Big 12 so the Hawks can beat them by 1 million.
Yeah! All right! Hell yeah! That's a good take regardless. when I brought that in. Yeah, I don't know. I get it from Colorado's perspective. I get it. But I also think you are taking a gigantic risk in doing this. Because if it fails, he's going to dip. And if it or he's going to get fired. And if it works, what is going to stop someone else from giving him an opportunity and him jumping right away? It's a situation where I will admit to being wrong, but you've got to prove to me that I could be wrong in this situation before I will get to that point. Because nothing that is from Prime Academy or whatever he called it.
Prep.
Yeah, Prime Prep, his career as a player, football and baseball, and everything after that, to his stint at Jackson State, to where he is now. Like, what is supposed to lead me to believe that, yeah, he's committed to Colorado Buffaloes football? If it brings Colorado back to the Big 12, then I guess thanks for doing that job. But I would not trust him as far as I could throw him. And I don't know how anyone in Colorado could. We've got to get to a quick break. When we come back, the SEC deserves ridicule for its 8-game conference schedule, but they also deserve a lot of laughter for a new rule about storming the field or court. We're going to get to that next on 580 Sports Talk.
Oh no! What? Who are you?
Backseat driver here. What were you thinking trying to pass that truck on the right?
He was in my way.
Bad move, bucko. When you drive too close to his back bumper or drive next to him on the right, he can't see you. We call it the no zone.
No zone?
Those are the blind spots close behind, in front, or beside trucks to both the right and the left.
So what if trucks can't see me? I can see them and get by fast.
Well, Slick, that's 80,000 pounds of metal at 70 miles per hour.
80,000 pounds?
They take twice as long to stop and are 3 times more deadly in a collision.
Yikes!
Yikes is right, Junior. So if you want to live another day, smart guy, give trucks some room. Pass only on the left and don't cut them off too close. And for the love of Pete, don't text and drive. Know the no zones. Get the facts at kansashighwaypatrol.org/no zone.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Seeing the world through new eyes and the earth from miles above. Not just breaking news, but breaking barriers. Now that's a job for a Girl Scout.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password,
for you to become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity
We were ragging on the Pac-12 for being cowards earlier, which is deserved.
The
SEC. I was reading about the Pac-12 here.
I'm sure the Pac-12 did something we can make fun of them for.
Employing Larry Scott. But we have to touch on this. So the SEC meetings are going on right now. That's where they voted on this new rule about the 8-game schedule for an extra year. They have had a long time rule in the SEC. I want to say going back to 08, 09, that you get fined $250,000 as an institution if your fans run on the court or run on the field after a game. And that's lame and dumb. I am always in favor of court storming and field storming, assuming that your fans are not attacking players or attacking each other. I'm in favor of it. Go have fun. Have fun while you can. Life's not always fun. They have updated their rules. They have wiped away all the violations from all the teams in the league. So they are now at 0 strikes. I know South Carolina, I think, broke that rule twice. They had to pay more the second time. Kentucky broke it once. I think Tennessee broke it this past year. Yeah, they definitely did. Lots of teams broke it. So they have reset it for everybody. You're at 0 going into next year. The new rule is for a first violation, it's a $100,000 fine. Second violation, $250,000, $250,000. Third time you violate this rule, it's $500,000. But instead of paying your fine to the SEC and then having the SEC, send it to a charity or reinvest it in programs or whatever, you now pay the fine money directly to the other school involved in the field storming.
That's so stupid.
So, if, let's say, Florida goes to Vanderbilt and Vandy wins, and the 14 fans at the Vanderbilt Stadium who are home team fans run on the field, Vandy has to then pay $100K to Florida. That is so funny.
Yeah, here, take this $100K and this L.
Justin Ferguson, who covers Auburn for auburnobserver.com, he's been on that beat for a long time. He tweeted out, paying the school you just beat because you celebrated too hard against them is such a flex. And I agree. I'm all about that. You beat LSU and then you have to pay them. I actually love that. I think that is so extremely funny. I am pro paying the other team your court storming fine. Granted, don't fine them because it's fun and good. It's good for college sports to storm the court or storm the field. But I saw that a minute ago and I thought we have to talk about this.
It's amazing.
It's extremely funny.
What do you put in the memo line of the check? This L.
Get wrecked. Hold the L and this. Oh, my God. We've got to get to one more break. We'll finish things off with a final word after this on 580 Sports Talk.
In conclusion, you better wrap it up.
Dave Ramsey is staring at me menacingly through the studio windows, which means it's time to get out of here for today. We'll be back tomorrow from 3 until 6, however, for our Feel Good Friday edition of the show. Matt Derrick is going to join us to talk all things Kansas City Chiefs. We'll preview the weekend set for the Royals against the Rockies and much more. That is all coming up tomorrow from 3 to 6 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, let's get to a final word for today's show.
Final word for me. The NBA Finals open tonight. I feel a little bit like a kid at Christmas, only if you were slightly afraid that what you were going to unwrap was going to eat your face. Like, that's a little bit of the emotion that I'm feeling right now. The excitement of unwrapping these NBA Finals with my favorite team playing in them, something I've waited my whole life to see, with the fear that it could go wrong. But I just saw a quote from Nuggets head coach Michael Malone where he says he's not nervous because he knows his team is prepared. And if he's not nervous, then I'm not going to be nervous either. I feel like they're pretty prepared. I feel like they're going to win the series. And I hope I enjoy game 1 tonight.
My final word takes us back to college sports realignment. I get why there would be mutual interest between the Big 12 and UConn. UConn will get a big fat check from the Big 12 if they wanted to jump from the Big East. The Big 12 gets another great basketball program, and I don't know, maybe other programs too. Maybe it's just a basketball thing. I don't know. But as someone who loves the sport, college basketball, college football, whatever that sport may be, for the sport and the pageantry and the tradition and the rivalry and all of those things that make college sports unique, I would be opposed to this, like almost morally opposed to it. You want to bring Colorado, Arizona State, some other major program like that, that's fine. UConn's a perfect fit in the Big East. Keep those rivalries together. There's no need to manufacture new ones in the Big 12. That is one rare opportunity where I would say I actually think a team should pass on the Big 12, and I think both sides might be better off for it. That does it for this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Go check out the podcast at our website, 580wibw.com. It'll be under the podcast tab under 580 Sports Talk. Of course, go subscribe to us on YouTube, where the name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. We're back tomorrow to wrap up the week from 3 until 6. But until then, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Drzezinski. Appreciate you guys for listening to another edition of 580 Sports Talk.